Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Relationships Rule. My guest today is Nick Richtsmeier, and Nick is a growth strategist and founder of Culture Craft who challenges conventional digital and marketing rules, helping leaders rebuild trust as the foundation for sustainable business growth in what he calls a post-trust world. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Thank you, Janice. So glad to be here.
I appreciate that. We had a chat last week and I really enjoyed talking to you. And since then, I've done a little bit of reading of some of your stuff and some of your, like your website and some blogs and listened to you speak. And I'm like, I'm not sure that I can keep up with your level of rhetoric, but what I get from everything and from our conversation is that we are on the same page when it comes to relationships in
Hmm.
business. And so I think when we talk about the lack of trust or the distrust that's
Hmm.
happening these days, I think I recognize that in what I see as I'm so fed up with everything being digital that that people don't bring it down to the caring of people. And
Hmm.
so I want to know your perspective and what has changed in the marketing world, the world today in business, and why does this matter so much right now? I know you're going to have a take on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're at an inflection point. I think the undermining of trust and by the digital ecosystem and the all these tools that we were told that were supposed to create connection and bring us together and blah 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 ended up doing nothing of the sort. And that doesn't mean there weren't some good things. It doesn't mean you weren't didn't reconnect with your high school best friend through Facebook or whatever, but writ large, we've been on this probably 10 to 15 year journey of digital moving from a sort of creative ecosystem where people can find each other and find information, and it's sort of expansive and interesting, to one that's really primarily extractive. That spending time online is more and more a feeling of what company's trying to get what from me and what am I being surveillanced and data and all that and AI and all of that. Like it's not pleasant, and it's not pleasant for a reason. It's not just because um it's not just because it's like the design of it's bad or something. It's actually designed that way on purpose.
Yeah,
And we can go, oh, well, great. Well, then let's just all get off social media. That'll be great. Or some sort of technology solution. The reality is, um, we all now come to the world with a much more cynical eye. There's all kinds of evidence for this, that the trust in institutions is at historic lows. Um, that we're much less willing or interested to walk across the room and engage someone who's unfamiliar or new, because of our expansive distrust. And I was on a conversation this morning with a colleague. There's increasing evidence that our emotional fragility, we're just more emotionally uh, kind of wound up, so to speak, because of our online experiences, that we don't handle disappointment and frustration and these things that are just normal human experiences. We're just grumpier, right? And all of that just makes having real relationships harder. So this idea that I think a lot of people go, well, yeah, digital and online's kind of a BS reality, social media, AI, whatever. But what I think people have missed and why this is so important is that we forget that our brains are being wired by the amount of time that we're spending in these environments. And now the way we experience digital is now seeping in to how we experience real life. And that's scary, right? Because relationships and how we engage each other is what really matters.
totally. So when we say that, and when you say we, I think and I could be wrong, but my experience seems to be that it depends on what generation you are as to whether you see it from, one side of the coin or the other, because so many of the young people, they've grown up with that they grew up in that digital. Even I got to say this, even something the other day, my granddaughter, who's 6.5, she proudly says, um, her mom found, bless you, um, her mom found a drawing app that she put on the child's iPad that she
Yeah.
uses for educational stuff. And she loves it. And she's drawing and stopping the thing and drawing, whatever. And ironically, I had just bought her a book with that kind of thing in it, where you copy the drawing step by step. And she'd already seen the app. So she's using the app. So when I introduced her to the book, she wasn't as interested. It was really weird because she's so geared towards the screen. Terrible thing. She's 6.5, and I think it's too much. However, it's again, the perspective is different because that's what she's growing up with.
Well, I think I wouldn't frame it as generational. I would frame it as exposure.
Okay.
And because there's really good evidence, and I have some anecdotal experiences as well, that there's an enormous number of young people who are moving to a low digital
Thank
experience,
goodness. Love to hear that. Yes.
because they don't like it. The advantage of, in some ways, the advantage of being 14 or 17 or 20 in this current digital environment is you kind of weren't alive for the good part,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, or you were maybe alive, but you were little or whatever, right? So you've never had a good social media experience. For someone who's 17, their entire experience of social media has been bullying
Mhm.
and terrible
Yeah.
image expectations and advertising. And so it's about exposure. I mean, because for example, one of the really pervasive issues is that people 50 and above wholesale committed to Facebook over the 2010s,
Hmm.
and they haven't left.
Right.
Most people younger than them have left.
Yeah. They're
They
the
have
only ones
stayed.
there. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And that platform in specific is incredibly destructive from a validation of data, uh, distribution of reality, use of AI, right? There's enormous problems. So if you have a lot of really nice, thoughtful, people who should be very analog focused
Yeah.
folks who spend 4 or 5 hours a day on Facebook,
Mm.
they're there because originally they were there to see their grandkids' photos or whatever, but now they're
They're
being
gone.
inundated by this non-reality.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, so let's go to this trust eroding environment in business. Can you
Yeah.
explain what this looks like in everyday business terms for a small business owner or a sales professional?
Yeah, absolutely. It means that the starting point for anybody who's buying for you is that you're not on their side. The starting point for almost everybody who sits across the table from you, whether it's a future employee or a future customer or whatever, the starting point is distrust,
Hmm.
because that's how we've been socialized. They're expecting an extractive experience because the majority of experiences they have with providers and vendors is extractive.
What does that mean? Extract.
Means that they're taking from you instead of giving to you.
Okay.
And certainly on the employment front. And the reality of that is the more you're generating that opportunity, let's say that prospective um, customer that you're sitting across the table from,
Mhm.
they found you by way of your ads on LinkedIn, which then went to a landing page, which then went to a website, which then went to whatever. All of the parts of the brain that those certain experiences fire with, those parts of the brain are used to being lied to and manipulated. And so now you're
Persuaded. Yeah.
right. Remember a billion years ago, right? When advertising used to be like billboards and
Yeah.
TV commercials and all of that. businesses were really, really careful, like what sitcom they'd put their commercial
Yes. Yes.
into, because what you were next to told your buyer what kind
That's
of company you were,
right. That's who you identified with.
right? And we don't do that anymore, right? Now, businesses are putting their advertisements into a social media feed right next to somebody who's putting up an AI image that's falsifying a news story, that, and all of that is just going through the same part of
Yes.
somebody's brain, right? And so we have to completely rethink about how we find each other. Because if we keep finding each other through these distrustful venues as the primary way. Now, that doesn't mean, I'm not saying that you can't be on LinkedIn if you're a business owner, that's fine,
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
but you've got to start to think about the long-term effects of that.
Yeah. And you have to be discerning, questioning, curious kind of person, and not
Yeah.
everybody is. So we
Yeah, I
get,
mean,
yeah,
the level of critical thinking that it requires today to just be able to sort through what's true and what isn't is
I know.
significantly higher.
Yeah, it's very scary. I actually came across a post that you put up yesterday, I think it was. It's very short. It just says, "I just got off a call with a," and I kind of want to challenge this interesting comment, but I just got off a call with a client who has valuable roles to fill. Only 2 hours after a colleague with a very strong following here on LinkedIn, I assume,
Yeah.
lamented another month of extended unemployment. The client specifically said, "We've got to stop wasting time with LinkedIn." And then you say, "I'm convinced more people would be more gainfully employed if this app didn't exist." Was that you saying that?
No, that's me. That I believe
Yeah.
that.
Okay. So I challenge that a little bit, but speak to me about that.
I think that millions and millions and millions of dollars and tens of millions of hours of attention are being spent trying to force feed connections through a platform
Okay. Yeah.
that reliably doesn't work. There are people, and I know many of them, that are spending dozens of hours on LinkedIn every week trying to post the right thing and click on the right person and find the right connection and blah, 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 to apply to the right thing that then feeds them. And they've applied to hundreds of
Yes.
positions on LinkedIn,
Yes.
600, 700, 800
Yes.
positions on LinkedIn, never even gotten a response.
So that that part I totally agree with you that that happens on a daily basis, and I think it's terrible and it's frustrating, and but to me that goes back to, even when you were just sending your resume and cover letter to the recruiting agents, by mail, it was the same thing. They all sat in a pile on the desk because ultimately it's about people. It's not about, right? It's about
I
networking.
think that's true, but even the example you're describing of the recruiting agent, there's legitimate friction there, and that friction is valuable. So the effort that it takes for me to write a cover letter and
Yeah.
produce a resume and mail it, and the friction that it requires for a recruiting manager to review, like all of that friction is human friction. It's not digital friction, it's human
Right.
friction.
Right.
And that human friction allows us to make better decisions. So I am convinced that that recruiting manager with 600 resumes on her desk
Yeah.
is in a better position to hire someone successfully than the recruiting manager with 4,000 candidates from 5 different apps in her inbox, where she can't even access them because the platform, and some of them are through ads and some of them aren't. And instead of spending time with the application, she's going, well, gosh, which one of these have we screened through the AI, and which should we should we switch our ads from LinkedIn over to Indeed? Maybe
Right.
Indeed has better ad, right? And the attention, because attention is so important. The attention being spent on manipulating the digital platforms is attention that isn't going to reading the resumes.
That's why
And that
my
woman sitting there with the 600 resumes on her desk, if she's got 3 hours set aside to find the candidate that day, we know she's going to spend it on the resumes. We don't know that today. In fact, we know that she's probably not going to spend it on the resumes.
But then today, I still think that I've always believed this, that it's not what you know, it's who you know. And if you are able to use the platform, in this case, LinkedIn, to find a way in to somebody who knows somebody that you know in that particular company that you would like to get into, or, whatever, then if that person gives you a little um, nudge to the person with the 4,000 resumes on their desk, they're going to look, if they respect that person, if they know that person, if they trust that person, they're going to look for that resume because it makes it a little bit easier. I know that's favoritism and all of that,
No,
but
that's not the issue. I mean, that would be great if it was true, but that's not. The reality is that person that you're trying to reach to give you that nudge,
yeah.
they don't check their DMs in LinkedIn anymore because their DMs are full of sales trash and automated AI messages. So they've stopped reading their DMs. So you can't even reach somebody through LinkedIn anymore. And I'm broke, so I can't afford to DM people on LinkedIn anymore because it's now a paid service. I can't afford to pay the DM service anymore because I don't have a job. Whereas before it was a phone call or a postage stamp, now I have to figure out, or I meet somebody for coffee. Right now, if I want to use LinkedIn to do it, it's going to cost me a $600 or a $1,200 membership to LinkedIn, money I don't have.
Well, I
Like,
don't know, that's totally, that is an example for sure. And there are people in that situation, definitely. Um,
I mean,
but
there are hundreds of thousands of people in that situation.
yeah, yeah,
So your premise is correct. It is people. The
yeah.
question is LinkedIn the best possible way we could imagine to get people to find each other? And increasingly, it's the worst.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's the worst. I'm not going to agree with that, but I think that the whole thing of coming back to relationships and relationship building in a more authentic way, or
Yeah,
a
I
real
agree
life
a,
way,
a
is the
thousand
way to
percent with
go.
that.
Yeah. Um, and there are different strategies to get people to the right people that can be better than what most people don't have a clue, to be honest. And that's the problem when it comes to how to use that platform. I did a presentation yesterday in front of 50 people, and I said, how many people have a LinkedIn profile? And they all put up their hand, except for maybe one or two. And I said, how many people are using LinkedIn? Maybe five put up their hand. So, they don't know what they're working with or how to make it better. So that's an aside though now, because that's not what we're here for. But I just see it as, one of the things is you've got to find a way that makes you stand out from the crowd, whether it's because you picked up the phone and called somebody and maybe they didn't answer. That's fine. Most people don't. But when they do, oh my God, it's such a bonus. But when they don't, at least they've heard from somebody in a different way. And so you've drawn attention to it. It's funny, I interviewed a guy a while ago and I can't remember his name right now, but he was telling stories about, he also was about relationship building and whatever. And he was a pharmaceutical salesperson back in the early days. And that's what he wanted to meet doctors. And they're the hardest people to get hold of. And he said that he would put on a doctor's a coat, a white coat, medical coat, whatever you call them, and go stand in the parking lot to just, when this guy, the doctor was coming out, he would do these trick things, these, strangely courageous things in my mind, but sometimes funny. And he would get to have the conversation because he
Sure.
stood out, or he would send crazy gifts to them or whatever. But people have lost that, by the way. They've lost that um, uh, ingenuity because a lot of people feel entitled these days. So there's that side of it too, I think.
Yeah, that's not my experience. When I talk to people who are underemployed, who are trying to find their next great position, or I'm talking to founders who have built great small businesses that they're trying to find a way to not have to spend 15 or 20% of their revenue on ads. It's, I don't find entitlement. What I
Okay,
find is
good.
exhaustion.
Okay. So you talk about when a prospect hesitates, disengages, or goes quiet, and this would be to those founders that you were just talking about.
Yeah.
I'm thinking most people see that as a problem. You see it as information. What should these people be doing to be paying attention to in these moments? How is it information?
Yeah. I mean, behavior is always information.
Yeah.
So when someone's exhibiting a behavior, often out of our own drive or neediness or whatever, we try to change the behavior. And the problem is, as soon as, like, it's just like with your kids, right? As soon as you try and, hey, stop doing that, then they want to do it more,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's just not how human beings work. So when when you're having the experience that someone's showing you signs of distrust, then your first question should be, why is this reasonable person distrustful? Not what can I do to get their attention? That's what the internet teaches you, is what can I do to get their attention?
Right. More,
More,
different.
more. No, you need to
Just,
have the humility
yeah.
to say this reasonable person is distrustful, is giving me distrustful behavior. We don't know if they're distrustful,
Right. Right.
but they're giving me distrustful behavior. I wonder why that is. And then that will impact what my next best action is. Now, my next best action is also going to depend on what access to them I have. If I've
Hmm.
already emailed them 3 times and they're
Hmm.
ignoring me and
Hmm.
they're giving me distrustful behavior, is a fourth email really going to build trust? Probably
Right.
not,
No.
right? So again, some of this depends on context and all of that. But
Sure.
when we stop competing for attention, this game that we've been incentivized into for a decade or more, and we start treating people as reasonable actors who are doing what just makes sense to them in life, then we can go, okay, I'm kind of a distrustful person too, and I don't really like sales calls, and I don't really like people intersecting themselves into my life. So how might I add value to this person? How might I make their situation better? Right? And there's going to be a flurry of answers depending on what your relationship with them is. Have you ever actually met them? Is this a cold call? Right? There's all of that's contextual, but that's what I mean by distrust is information.
Hmm. So I'm thinking that if we get that information, then we know we have to pivot somehow to get their attention. And we can't really do anything direct because we're not, they're not my client yet. They're not your client yet. They're your prospects still. So that takes either a lot of ingenuity or someone to help you who's got that ingenuity to make that happen. So most people get stuck there. So what do I do?
Well, some of it, I I would build a business where which I've done and I coach other people to do, where with everything in my power, I would never be in a situation doing cold outreach. That's the first thing I would do.
Okay,
So the
that's good.
situation that you're describing sounds like cold outreach to me.
Yeah.
I'm not a cold outreach expert, so I don't know. Once you piss
Okay.
somebody off, I don't know,
Yeah, no,
you
good
know,
point. Good point.
like good
So,
luck. I mean, again, there are people out there that are really good at that kind of thing,
yeah.
and I just am, that's just not my business. Um, I think what I advise people to do is from the jump, build networks of relationships so that you're never in a position having to build cold relationships.
Right. Okay. That's where I was hoping that you would go. Is that what you call trust nodes?
So trust nodes are places where trust transactions happen.
Okay.
So a trust node is anywhere where we can trade value for trust, right? And
Mhm,
so
mhm,
value might be me listening to you. That's
mhm,
value. And so if
mhm,
I give you that little bit of value, you're going to give me a little bit of trust back,
mhm, mhm,
right?
mhm,
Value might be showing up on time. Value might be being the one to buy the coffee.
mhm,
Value might be following up with email afterward that says,
Mhm.
hey, this is my notes of what we talked about. These aren't AI generated. This is genuinely what I thought was important about our conversation. Really appreciate your time. Right. And smart business development people and business development work builds on those little nodes over time. Because what happens in the back of the brain, which is where trust happens, is then all that stuff compiles. And now all of a sudden I've trusted you in that 10 minutes that you listened to me. And
Mhm.
I've trusted you to buy the coffee. And I've trusted you to give you the time to read the review of our meeting together. And I've trusted you that I gave you my cell phone number, right? And now all those little bits of trust are adding up. And I, as the person who's doing business development, I'm watching that happen, right? Because all behavior is information.
Mhm.
I'm watching that happen, and I notice when we've built up enough trust for me to pull from the bank account
Mhm. Mhm.
and to go, hey, can I offer an opportunity for me to invest further in this relationship,
Mhm.
for us to do more together? Are you open to that conversation? And you're now in the habit of saying yes to me. It's a thing that in our trainings we call yes momentum.
Mhm.
You have yes momentum with me, and now I can ask something a little bit more risky because you've learned that when you say yes to me, good things happen.
Mhm. Okay, this is good. So, I've had conversations with two different people lately that uh, one was on my podcast just recently and the other one a while ago. And they're both talking about this being the year of referrals. Okay, it is referral time. I mean, it's back to relationships and back to, people that know and trust you that you want to do business with. And then that'll make it easier if they refer people that you can also know that. Anyway, you know
Yep.
what I'm saying.
Yep.
So one of them says you never have to ask for referrals. If you do business properly, you don't have to ask for referrals. The other one says this one is done through a process that we look at on LinkedIn that will help you get to people that can be referred by someone in your
Sure.
right in your circle of influence. So, where do you sit on that?
Um, I mean, I'm kind of neither.
You
I
are
think,
you are a contrarian, though.
yeah. I mean, I spent 10 years teaching a referral program to professional services people.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't teach that anymore, and I wouldn't necessarily draw from it because it was 10 years ago,
Yeah.
so it's a little
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
But I know a little bit about this. Um, what we frame as referrals is really just, to me, two things. One is, do the people who know about you know that you're open for business? Meaning that you have space that you could take on people that you could help.
Okay.
So whether you're pinging people on LinkedIn, which depending on how you do it can be very intrusive,
Hmm.
or whether you magically are such an excellent service provider that people volunteer referrals to you. I mean, I that has been mostly my experience. So I hate to say that that person's wrong. I don't ask for referrals, and I mostly live exclusively on referrals.
Hmm.
I wouldn't necessarily say that that's universally true. Regardless, what you have to have is people who know that you have capacity to take on more clients or more people, and those people have to know who you'd like to work with.
Fair enough. Yep.
And if people know that, stuff tends to work out.
Well, I would add a piece in there that I believe makes it happen, and that is that usually the people that um, bring you referrals are people that have known you forever and would always refer you because they love you. And then there's those you've worked with that had a successful experience with you, right? But the missing piece there for me is staying in touch with them. If you don't stay in touch with them, you get forgotten for the next shiny object,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. I guess when I say those people have to know those two things, they have to know it in the current moment, right? They
Yes.
have
Yeah. Well,
enough
exactly.
reasonable experience with you in the last 3 months or 6 months or 12 months
Exactly. Yeah.
to
That's
know that
to-
those things are true.
yeah, that's what I was getting at there. Okay. So how does building trust? Wait, I just have to read this one because you have good. No. Okay. So for someone, okay, this is kind of interesting. You have said that the growth rules are stacked in favor of incumbents.
Yeah.
Not sure what you mean. How can small businesses stop playing a game that quietly works against them? Do they mean against them or against the incumbents?
No, against them as small businesses. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the big boys versus the,
Yeah.
yeah. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, and some of this is digital, like the platforms, the ad, certainly the digital ad business. All of these things are overtly biased toward large
Yes.
existing players.
Yes.
There was a time where you could like game SEO as a startup and use search engines to sneak in, right? And all of a sudden be the snappy new player. That all of that's gone.
Okay.
Um, and yet, if you talk to a small business that's starting, they've had some success, they've been referral based, they've never really needed a ton of marketing. Inevitably, they raise their hand and they're like, you know what we need? We need some social media. We need to do SEO.
Yeah.
I want to be number one on Google.
It's like they grab these things out of the air.
And inevitably, I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why would you want to try and compete
Mm,
in the forum where you are overwhelmingly under-resourced?
right.
Whereas I think this is part of your arena is, where you're never under-resourced is across a table from somebody who knows you or knows someone who knows you,
Mhm.
right? Then it's just trust and value.
Yeah, exactly.
But the level of resistance by leaders and founders to doing that because they've been convinced that there's these magic wand things you can do on the internet to get around it.
I know.
And the good news is whatever there was of those magic wand things, they're gone. They've been eaten by AI.
Mm,
And so now all that we have left is this.
mhm.
That history will look back and go, that was kind of funny from like 2010 to 2021 when
Yeah.
people thought this weird place called the internet could do all these things because it's over.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like it's so passive in a way. I mean, it's like, okay, I'm going to put all this stuff out there and then just wait for it to come to me.
Yeah, you can thank HubSpot for that. They invented that idea.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, last question about this. For someone listening who feels overwhelmed and skeptical themselves, what is one mindset shift or small change they could make that would immediately improve how they show up in sales and client relationships?
Um, Someone's overwhelmed and skeptical. What's one way they could shift? Um,
I mean, I guess they have to trust whoever's guiding them, don't they?
yeah, I mean, to some degree, distrust is a secondary effect of something deeper. And for most people, what I teach in my trainings often is that everyone you're engaging with, almost everyone you're engaging with, is some version of lonely,
Yeah, I was going to say fear is
right?
one. Yeah.
Lonely, anxious,
Yeah.
afraid, and mentally exhausted because digital life is incredibly taxing on our brains.
Yeah.
Um, so if I reverse that and look in the mirror, and I want to be more resilient as a sales leader or as a founder or whatever it is, then I need to be proactive about addressing one of those three things: loneliness, anxiety, or mental exhaustion. So, loneliness, I need to find some people who are going to be a compassionate witness to my life. That's the way you solve loneliness, is you find a compassionate witness to your life. Someone who says, "Hey, that sounds hard," or "Let's talk about that," or "Let me ask you questions." Anxiety, it means that your body is telling you that you're trying to do things you have no business doing. That's what, or again, if it's chronic medical anxiety, it's a different situation, but
Yeah.
just sort of
Yeah.
basic anxiety. So that means that you're doing things you shouldn't be doing. So most of the best way to solve for anxiety is to do fewer things. You need to
Yes.
step
Okay.
back.
Oh, so, and in my world, I'm always telling people this motto that came from a friend of mine when it comes to LinkedIn and outreach and so on: slow down your output to speed up your outcome.
Yeah, you
Because,
just got to do fewer
yeah,
things.
exactly. So that's beautiful. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And
Um,
then, mental exhaustion is again is related. You have to feed your brain with things that are stimulating but not overwhelming,
mhm,
which is again analog things. Go listen to a record, read a
mhm,
book,
mhm.
read a magazine, walk a dog, right? These are things that bring down all that mental exhaustion. Talk to a friend.
So that leads me to the perfect ending. The last thing I want to talk about, which has nothing to do with any of this, is that I saw that you are a movie person.
Oh yeah, I love movies.
Oh my God, I love movies and I want to have a whole conversation with you about movies. But
Okay.
just briefly, I think was it a post you did? A lot of people wonder why I'm so obsessive about saving the movie theater experience. That's a whole thing in itself, going to the movies as
Yeah.
opposed to watching them on TV.
Yep.
But that's somewhere where I saw that you're obsessed with movies. And um, do you like, are you an Academy Award person? Like, do you have to watch
Yeah,
all
well,
these?
yeah, try and catch as many of
Yeah.
those films before the awards come out. And yep.
Yeah, and I see you've seen a few already that
Yep.
two of whom, no, I've seen Marty Supreme. I've seen um One Battle After Another,
Yeah.
but I haven't seen the other ones yet on your list. I'm not a Lord of the Rings person, but The Testament of Anne Lee, who is it that's in that?
Um, oh, now as soon as you have to ask me, I'm
I'm
not.
sorry, but I know that she's in two movies, and one of them is that one, and the other one is the more popular
Yeah,
movie.
I can picture her. She was in Les Miserables. She was in Mean Girls. She was in uh um
Yeah, it's gone from my head. Anyway,
anyway.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I heard that that was really good. Yes, obviously you've seen it.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, and Hamnet is, I think it's in the theaters here now.
Hamlet's incredible. Hamlet's remarkably hard to find, which I think is
Yes.
silly.
Well, I think because it's probably seen as what I call a film as opposed to a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, a more artsy art.
But I think it's still I think it's having sort of a second round of release now that it's Oscar nominated.
Yeah.
Hamlet is excellent.
Okay. But sad, that's the thing, right? But we all
Very
know.
sad, but
Yeah.
beautiful sad.
Yeah.
It's all about how art can heal us. It's beautiful.
Oh, okay. I am going to see it before the camera. So anyway, I just wanted to share that love of cinema
Yeah.
with you. And you talked about, I think, taking your child, is it a son?
Yeah, I have three sons. We
That's
go to the
right.
movies a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really cool. And
Yeah.
I love that. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah.
And so what's your prediction for this year? What's going to be the best movie or the best top three?
Yeah, I mean I mean it's a for Best Picture, it's a One Battle, um, Sinners,
But yeah,
Marty
I don't.
Marty Supreme Race,
Yes.
um,
Why do
almost a
I want to?
I'm sorry, a Hamnet Race. Marty Supreme's not going to win
Yeah,
Best Picture. Hamnet
he,
Race.
he should win it
Um,
though for best actor.
but One Battle will win
Because of what? The
because it's
writing?
great.
It's it's a truly American movie. Like it's a truly, yeah.
Yeah, and I
And
mean, so is Sinners, and so is Marty Supreme. I mean, like, all of those movies are asking really fundamental questions about what it means to be an American.
yeah, okay. And that's where we're at right now in the world, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Perfect. All right.
yeah,
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your
yeah,
wisdom and your thoughts on, distrust in the world today in business and things to think about in that regard. How
yeah.
can people find you?
Probably the easiest way. I mean, you can find me on LinkedIn until I eventually finally quit because I hate it. Um, but the easiest way is just my newsletter is at damsgiven.com.
And you have a book coming out. Yes.
Yeah, probably late spring, early summer. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, do come back around when that's
Okay.
happening. Let's talk.
I will, and we can talk about my book. All right.
Yeah, totally appreciate your time. And for my listeners, anybody who really wants to get in on this conversation, I think you should reach out, let us know, leave a review, contact Nick, see all of his website and you've got your website, your culture.
Yeah, culturecraft.com is the business.
Right. And you
I
have
have so many websites. Culturecraft.com is the business. Trustmadegrowth.com is the community. If you are a independent professional, you're a consultant or you're a coach or something, we have a community for people like you at trustmadegrowth.com. And then just my publishing site is damsgiven.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And remember, everyone, to stay connected and be remembered. If today's show inspired you to make a new connection, why not start with me? Head over to LinkedIn and connect with me. Be sure to let me know you are a podcast listener, because I select one listener each month who connects with me on LinkedIn for a complimentary profile audit. Don't forget to stay connected and be remembered.